Welcome to the Nocturne Gallery.
Today we're entering the mysterious and really deeply atmospheric world of Arnold Böcklin.
He was a 19th century Swiss painter whose reputation has just followed one of the strangest arcs in art history.
It really has. I mean, from being this celebrated European superstar to then being dismissed as, sentimental kitsch.
And now finally he's undergoing this massive and I think much deserved rediscovery.
Absolutely. So today we're going to try and understand Böcklin's unique creativity.
Yeah, we'll focus on his mythological landscapes, the ones with the fauns and centaurs.
And of course, we have to explore the lasting power and the very complicated history of his masterpiece, Island of the Dead.
That painting just holds so much weight.
Okay, so let's start the story in Basel, Switzerland. Böcklin was born there in 1827.
And he was born into a world of commerce, wasn't he? His family was in the silk trade. They were wealthy.
That's right. So you get that classic struggle right from the beginning, the artist versus the pragmatic family.
His father really disapproved of his artistic dreams. He wanted him in the business.
Yes, straightforward path. But his mother, she was his supportive shield.
And there's that amazing detail that she might have had a distant family connection to Hans Holbein the Younger.
Exactly. And that might have just given her the confidence to push back and let Arnold follow his dream.
Imagine having even a whisper of a connection to a Renaissance giant like that. So he leaves Basel.
And he heads for formal training. He studied traditional historical and landscape painting in Düsseldorf from 1845 to 1847.
And his teacher, Schirmer, he was known for this almost hyperrealistic detail, right?
Oh, totally. A very academic, almost photographic precision. And you can see that in Böcklin's early work.
But he was restless. He had this wanderlust, traveling through Belgium, the Netherlands.
And Paris, briefly.
He really disliked Paris, didn't he? It was around 1848, so all that revolutionary chaos.
Yeah, it was just too much for his taste. And that instability, it seemed to trigger a really difficult period for him when he went home.
The late 1840s were just devastating for him.
Absolutely. His fiancée, Louise Schmidt, died tragically in 1849.
And that, on top of rejection of his work and money troubles, it must have been an awful time.
It forced a hard choice. He could have just retreated into the family silk business.
But instead, he made this definitive commitment to art. And that's what led him to Rome in 1850.
And Rome. Well, Rome was what finally unlocked his imagination. He called it his second homeland.
And he stayed there for 7 years, just soaking it all in.
He did. Rome was where he found some personal stability, though. I mean, stability didn't mean it was easy. In 1853, he married Angela Pascucci.
She was only 16, I believe.
That's right, and she became just completely central to his life and his work.
Not just his partner through all the hardship, the constant moving, losing several children, but she was also his model.
His constant, indispensable model, even for the nymphs and mythological figures in his paintings.
That's such a crucial point. Using his wife, the mother of his children, to model these idealized, vital figures from mythology.
It forces the divine and the personal, the fantastic and the painfully real right into conversation with each other.
Before we move on from Rome, we have to talk about that one bizarre chapter, the one that just perfectly captures his eccentric spark.
Ah, the flying machines.
His obsession with Leonardo da Vinci.
It's such a great story. Around 1855, he was so fixated on Leonardo's designs that he actually built a contraption.
And he supposedly got permission from Pope Pius IX to test it.
Can you imagine permission from the Pope? But then the Inquisition apparently got involved.
They were suspicious of technology that looked too much like sorcery, maybe.
Something like that, and he was forced to flee. But that didn't stop him.
No, he tried again years later in Berlin in 1883.
And it also failed to fly, which I guess confirms he was a genius of paint, not engineering. But it shows his mindset, right? Unwilling to accept limits.
It's that exact rejection of limits that defines his breakthrough style in Rome. He starts to shed that strict Düsseldorf realism.
And he starts populating his landscapes with fauns, centaurs, tritons.
But he does it in such a unique way. He's not doing the grand, epic style of mythology like, say, Titian.
No, not at all. He brings the myths right down to earth. He paints them with such rigorous, naturalistic detail.
So he's using those precise technical skills, not to paint a perfect tree, but to paint a hyper-real faun.
Exactly. A faun just sitting there looking like it belongs. Sometimes they even look a bit humorous or clumsy.
And this is what's known as intimate pantheism.
That's the term. The divine wasn't some distant, perfect idea for him. It was close, it was touchable, grounded in the Italian landscape he loved.
And you see it in the vitality of his figures. that almost Rubens-like energy. And since Angela was often the model,
The fantastic and the real become completely intertwined. It makes the mythology feel so personal, so human.
and this approach was a huge success for him, wasn't it?
Oh, an immediate success. His painting Pan in the Reeds from 1859 was a major turning point.
I love the little details in that one, like the frogs listening to Pan's music.
And the fact that Ludwig I of Bavaria bought that painting, well, that brought him huge popularity. It really cemented his reputation.
Technically, he was also just a master of atmosphere. The rich, dense colors, the way he painted water and sky.
It's also charged with emotion, and we know he experimented with encaustic wax painting early on.
Which is a notoriously tricky medium.
Very. But he later regretted stopping because he saw how well the colors had lasted. It just shows that constant drive to push boundaries.
And that commitment to expressing internal feeling through nature, it's there even when he's trying to be realistic.
Like in The Sanctuary of Hercules from 1884.
Right, the shrine looks archaeologically accurate, the soldiers look real.
But look closer. The stones of the shrine have this strange, unnatural glow. The colors are so rich, but then you see these dark, ominous clouds on the horizon.
He's not just painting what he sees in nature.
Not at all. He's painting the dramatic, emotional state that nature evokes in him, and that is the turn towards symbolism.
And as his fame grew, he entered his most productive period, which led to, well, his monumental icon.
The one and only Island of the Dead. He painted at least 5 versions between 1880 and 1886.
And the impact was phenomenal. It became a true global sensation, a magnet for the anxieties of the late 19th century.
Its power is all in the atmosphere. It's just drenched in this dark, melancholic, introspective mood.
It's that perfect balance we just talked about between the high emotion of Romanticism and the
highly metaphorical, internal focus of symbolism.
Let's maybe clarify that distinction for a second.
Sure, so Romanticism was more about the overwhelming power of nature itself. But Böcklin, as a symbolist, uses specific visual metaphors, the island, the boat, the cypress trees, to evoke an internal state of mind.
Like grief or a journey.
Mortality.
Exactly. And the visual elements are so iconic. That stark, rocky island.
Dominated by those dark cypress trees, which have been linked to cemeteries forever.
And then there's that small lone boat approaching.
With the white shrouded figure inside, looking almost like an Egyptian mummy.
And the pilot, who everyone associates with Charon, the ferryman of the dead, taking the soul to this fortress-like tomb carved into the rock.
It's interesting that the second version was commissioned by a widow, Marie Berna, who specifically asked for a picture for dreaming.
Which is pure symbolism. It wasn't just to be looked at, it was a vehicle for contemplation.
And the painting's popularity was just astonishing, especially in German-speaking Europe.
Vladimir Nabokov famously said that prints of it were in every Berlin home in the early 20th century.
That's an unbelievable level of fame for a single piece of art.
And that meant its influence was huge. It inspired Giorgio de Chirico and the whole metaphysical school of painting, and the Surrealists claimed him as a precursor.
The influence went beyond painting, too. Oh, yeah. In music, Rachmaninoff's famous symphonic poem, Isle of the Dead, was directly inspired by a black and white print he saw.
And that story about Rachmaninoff's villa is just incredible.
It is. He bought a villa in Switzerland because the landscape looked like the painting, and supposedly he even had rocks blown up on the shore to make it look even more like Böcklin's vision.
That is true dedication.
It really speaks to the powerful grip the image had. But that immense popularity led to a very complicated and, frankly, dark legacy.
This is the part of the story that casts such a deep shadow. The history of the painting became tainted.
It did, because Adolf Hitler bought the third version in 1933.
And he claimed Böcklin was his favorite artist.
Yes, that association, that claim that Böcklin represented some ideal of Nordic heroic art, led to this deep distrust of his work after World War II.
His emotionalism became suspect.
Right, and that, combined with its ubiquity, led to that counter-reaction we mentioned at the start. Critics started dismissing it as kitsch, too sentimental.
Like its appearance in the Russian novel The 12 Chairs, where it's just this sad, fly-covered print in a miserable apartment.
It's amazing how an artwork can run that full spectrum from spiritual icon to mass-market kitsch, and then tragically politicized.
But Böcklin wasn't only about melancholy. He kept exploring mythology with this raw energy and a sort of creeping darkness.
He did. If you contrast the somber island with something like The Play of the Naiads from 1886, you see all this vigorous movement and mischief.
But there's still these unsettling details in there.
Absolutely. The surface is lively, but the anxiety is there. You see that little baby merman looking frightened, and then there's that strange older figure lurking in the waves.
He never offers just simple fantasy, does he? There's always this note of disquiet.
And that anxiety about mortality was something he wrestled with constantly. You see it in his famous self-portrait with Death Playing the Fiddle from 1872.
A truly canonical symbolist work.
Death is right there at his shoulder, playing a tune to remind him his hour is near.
But death is also seen as the inspiration, isn't it? Playing the macabre music that gives him the visions he has to paint. He looks apprehensive, but he doesn't drop his brush.
It's the ultimate metaphor for the creative impulse, really. The knowledge of the end is what fuels the work.
And as the 19th century came to a close, the fin de siècle, his work really seemed to amplify the anxiety of the period.
His final works feel intensely prophetic. Things like War from 1896, and even more so, The Plague from 1898.
In The Plague, you have that skeletal rider on a winged dragon with that repulsive snakebird head, sowing death with smoke.
And the composition is key. The figure of Plague is painted with this incredible expressive detail, but the victims below are just blurred shapes staggering through the smoke.
That contrast, the horrifying monster versus the abstract suffering of the masses.
That's where he fully leaves academicism behind. It's a style that really anticipates the expressionists' focus on emotional impact over realism. Some people even say it felt prophetic of poison gas in the 20th century.
So after all of this, what is the legacy of this solitary storyteller?
I think Böcklin was the master of grounding the fantastic. He took these myths and made them feel touchable, placing them in the real world with this incredible technical brilliance in color and atmosphere.
His worlds were mysterious, resonant, and they just captured the imagination of a changing Europe.
And his career itself, it mirrors that whole complex cycle of artistic reputation, from icon to co-opted to dismissed and now rediscovered.
Which brings us to our final thought for you to consider. Böcklin's Island of the Dead is a canvas where meaning is constantly shifting.
So when you look at an artwork with such a complex history, personal tragedy, immense popularity, artistic influence, and this heavy political taint, how much of what you're seeing is the artist's original vision?
And how much is just the accumulated history, the cultural baggage, and all the layered meanings attached to it by everyone who's viewed it since? Something to ponder.